Pain heals. Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever.
The WNBA and the Indiana Fever continue to lie and gaslight the fans about Caitlin Clark's injury and her return. Welcome back to the channel. Thank you for being here. Appreciate all your support. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Shout out to the 19. Let's go. So we have a clip here from the other day that I didn't get a chance to get to yet, but I think it's important. There's a game tonight. Caitlin Clark is out, and Stephanie White had some comments about where Caitlin Clark is right now in terms of her recovery. I want to play this for you. It's only about 18 seconds long, and talk about it and go over some other stuff that we have seen that has been happening with regard to Caitlin Clark and when she will actually be back.
No return to practice. She's been able to get a little bit more in her full court running. With her all of her body weight. It's really building up from doing minimal to then building some endurance to do longer periods of time. She's been able to do a little bit more on the court in terms of how she moves, but not into practice yet. No return.
Wow. Now, I hate to say it, folks, but that does not sound like a player who is close to ready to return. The return date that for a while now has been given as 8/15 for a return date that the other day she was listed, or yesterday. Oh, they're all starting to run together. Maybe it was yesterday. It might have been the day before where she was listed as questionable. And then now there has been some back and forth and that, oh, that was ESPN did that on their own. And that didn't come from the Fever. But then the WNBA website was showing that her status had changed as well. And then they finally updated it because people were complaining or questioning it. And it's just, it is what we expect from the WNBA. It's stuff like this. The return date was changed. Return date August 15th, estimated return date. Now, I think that was moved. I think it now says the 22nd. But again, this from Stephanie White, if she is giving us the truth. And at this point, I question everything. I don't know that we get the truth about anything. But that does not sound like a player who's even ready to return on August 22nd. If she's not doing anything but finally putting full weight on it with her running, which again sounds really odd to me that is only where we are at this point from the way I've seen Caitlin move and what I know about the injury. Now, I'm not treating her. I'm not one of her coaches or one of her strength coaches. So obviously I don't have the full inside knowledge. I can only go with what I see. But with everything we know about the WNBA since Caitlin Clark got in the league, you kind of the tinfoil hat's kind of a permanent thing, right? We kind of can't take anything at face value, and like someone pointed out, which I had up here, just as a reminder, Caitlin Clark, when Caitlin Clark was, I think it was the latest injury. So it's the one where we knew she was going to be out longer than the others. And Stephanie White said Caitlin being out injured is a blessing in disguise, which is absolute complete nonsense. And if I have a player like Caitlin Clark, Stephanie White is packing up her office and being escorted off the premises the very day that she made that comment, because that is not the head coach for Caitlin Clark. You cannot have that as what your head coach is thinking about your best player. You can talk about how it's the opportunity for other players to step up and other players to lead and things like that. But that's a little different than saying Caitlin being out injured is a blessing in disguise. And again, I know people say, oh, well, it's a little different because Ari's out for the season and Sid's out for the season. I don't think it's different for this reason. Stephanie White was very heavy with the praise on those two about missing them, but also about who they are as people. None of that was happening with Caitlin Clark. None of that praise. It was just, oh, well, this is a blessing for us. We get to show what we can do without our best player. And by the way, Caitlin Clark has already missed more games than Ari McDonald and Sydney Colson are going to miss for the rest of the season. And again, for those who are going to spout nonsense in the comments, I'm not dismissing Ari and Sid's injuries. I'm not downplaying it. I'm not happy about it. In fact, I feel really, really bad, especially for Sid, because most likely, given the timing, her age, and the injury itself, Sydney Colson may very well be finished with her WNBA career, and that's a terrible way for any player to finish up their athletic career. You just don't want that to happen. And that's why you get players who overstay their productive time in leagues. When it gets to a certain point, a lot of fans are just like, man, should have retired, because you hate to see great players go out when they've been there too long. So, but that's what we're getting from Stephanie White. That's what we're getting from the league is who knows. It feels like they're doing their best to hang on to the fans, to keep the fans engaged, to keep the fans watching, because they know that the numbers, if Caitlin Clark fans check out because they're like, yeah, you know what, she's not coming back, she's done, watching this team without her hasn't been very entertaining, so we're going to move on to other things. And I want to point out one of the other things she said in this is that, everybody else finds themselves, no one is afraid to make the big play offensively and defensively. And I find that really, really interesting coming from the coach. As we now know, I did a video on it, who pulled Caitlin Clark out of a game for a pass that she made, saying we don't need to make that pass. And then Caitlin talking about how later in the game she didn't, a pass that she could make in her sleep, a pass that she should have made, a pass that was actually pretty damn easy. Caitlin Clark did not make that pass because of what Stephanie White did. And then you add in, that was in my head at seeing, watching them play after that, and watching the team play and seeing some of the passes some of these players were making and not getting pulled out and not being criticized by Stephanie White saying they shouldn't make those passes. Something's wrong. Something is wrong with the relationship between a coach and player when you have a generational player like Caitlin Clark and you have Stephanie White pulling her out of games for making passes that she does not like. She does not want her taking any risk at all. She wants to change Caitlin Clark into a typical WNBA player, while at the same time allowing other players who cannot pass, like Caitlin Clark, to make risky passes, whether it's Natasha Howard behind the back or throwing full court passes or whatever else it might be. Those players are allowed to make those same passes that Caitlin Clark cannot make when playing for Stephanie White. Let me show this real quick. Y'all might remember this. This is kind of the last time we really saw the fire from Caitlin Clark. This was that Connecticut game. This is where we thought she was scolded by the coaches for her behavior, right? And we haven't seen that fire. I think that was toward the coach after yeah, right. That's that one in front of JC Sheldon, and that I believe is to the coach after all that nonsense in that Connecticut game. The one where Marina Mabry is now backtracking because she doesn't want to get in trouble when the civil rights investigation comes along. But this is the Caitlin Clark everyone wants to see, and it really feels like the league and the Indiana Fever are lying to us about the severity of the injury and when she is due back. So I will keep you updated on this as I learn, and let you know my thoughts on what it is. Let me know what you think in the comments below. What is going on with this injury? Everything they said about it when it happened does not seem like we should be where we are right now. But anyway, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Appreciate it as always. Thank you for checking out the video. Smash the like button if you're enjoying the content. Subscribe to the channel. Keep us growing. Go have the day you deserve, and I will talk to you later.